Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. So the last time I talked about Japan not getting us, i.e. the outside world, that got a lot of attention. That got a lot more attention than I expected it to. Big special shout out to Jesse Cox, because man, I did not expect you to talk about, let alone watch that video, and a handful of other people. This time around though, I want to be specific on the subject matter, and I want to upfront say that this is all assumption. I don't profess myself to be a genius when it comes to talking about companies and company behavior. This is just what I see. And if you disagree with it, that's fine. I mean, I can't really back it up with hard evidence per se, but I mean, this is just what I see. And that specific topic is Japanese companies and how their actions and policies may reflect that they just kind of don't get us in the Western world. And again, before I say anything else, I don't want anyone to start going off on me saying, oh, well, you don't know this, you don't know that, I have more experience than you. That's irrelevant at this point. This is just my perspective, and the only thing I want to happen here is for you guys to think about this and come up with your own conclusions. So, the big hoopla right now is the fact that Capcom is in even bigger trouble, where they've lost half of their expected revenue for the fiscal year because, well, there's a handful of reasons, but I think the biggest one that everyone's talking about is that they try to break into the mobile market, and it did not succeed. Now, a couple of questions that I would have with that is, one, which mobile market? Because the mobile market in Japan is gigantic. And when I say it's gigantic, it's probably the biggest possible market in the world right now. That may change in time, but right now, Japan is the biggest hotspot for mobile market. And to a lot of people that are saying, well, it was a stupid idea for Capcom to get into the mobile market, no, it wasn't. Not necessarily. Just because of how big that market actually is. The thing that I have with Capcom, though, is that if this is the case, and it might not, but if this was the case, Capcom is focusing only on their domestic market. And that's a really stupid idea. Anyone in any sort of business can tell you that the world is just completely intertwined with itself when it comes to economy. People that succeed sell worldwide, not domestically. So, I don't know. If you want to read the details, I'll throw in a link right here, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. But, that's just one example of how I feel that Capcom's kind of ignoring the outside world. Again, anecdotal evidence. People have been asking time after time for, a real Resident Evil game, and I think the closest we got was Resident Evil Revelations. But even then, that had some problems with the atmosphere. And, I, as well as many other people, are wondering when Capcom is going to stop selling Mega Man merchandise for $200 a pop and actually start making more Mega Man games. I don't know if they're listening to the outside world in that aspect. And, another good one, Monster Hunter. At least Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, as we know it in the West. I do not believe that game was made with multiplayer in mind. I can't prove it. I can't find hard information to prove that, but I believe that was the case. And that's why it's online multiplayer, everything was just terribly designed. It felt like it was completely shoehorned into the actual game because I think it kinda was. Because when you think about it, I don't think, and again, anecdotal, but I do not believe that Japan is hardcore focused in online play like we are. And by we, I mean like United States, Europe, South America, and maybe like Korea and China to an extent. I don't think Japan is super into online gaming. And the reason for that is because their population density is so insane that it would not be very, very hard for local multiplayer to be the big thing. That might be one of the reasons why Nintendo is still really hard up on local multiplayer. I don't know. Again, it's just me thinking out loud. And speaking of Nintendo, I don't know if Nintendo's really paying too much attention. Like, Nintendo as a company is paying too much attention to the outside world. Again, no hard evidence, but here's my argument. I see a lot of stuff. Like, when I first saw the Street Pass functionality, I thought to myself, there is no way that Nintendo thought this idea was a good idea to any country outside of Japan. I understand that there are a lot of smaller countries with like a really, really big population density, but it really cannot beat Japan. And since North America is just such a humongous market for Nintendo, I don't know. Nintendo of America had to have known that this function would not be heavily used. The only times that I've ever seen Street Pass function at all is when I was working up on campus or going to school or going to a convention because, at least where I'm at, there's just so much more focus on online play. And I don't know. That's just something that's really made me think a whole lot. Nintendo's interaction with YouTubers is another thing that's got me wondering just how much they're thinking about the outside world outside of Japan. And I'm actually going to be pulling some information from MatPat's latest game theory, and I'll be sure to throw a link in the description for that. But it's a theory called the Diffusion of Innovation, where there's kind of this bell curve going on, and it's just about population. So you've got 2.5 of the innovators. These are the people that are trying something new in order to get information or product or whatever out there. Then you've got the early adopters. These are the people that latch onto it quickly and push it even further, and that's when you start hitting the early majority, late majority, laggards, whatever. That's when everyone else hits. And YouTubers are in the innovators and early adopters category, wherein if there's something new that's coming out, we give it a tremendous boost to the general public, so that they can be aware of it, they can try it, they can buy it, whatever. And what's freaking me out is that Nintendo is hurting themselves by blocking the innovators and early adapters from pushing it upwards to everyone else online and everyone else around the world. And again, I'm sorry, I'm borrowing from MatPat. I don't take credit for this, but he makes a really good point. It's just, if this is something that I can comprehend, business people at Nintendo surely must understand this, but I don't know. I don't know how much the home office is keeping, like, Nintendo of America from being more open to YouTubers. I don't know how much influence the home office in Japan has. And I'm guessing a lot because this is happening. You know, it's really interesting. When I did my Ninja episode of Game Exchange, Clay Entertainment contacted me. And they didn't silence me. They didn't want a cut of the money that I made. They freaking showered me with praise and sent me an 8-inch figure of the Mark Ninja, which I freaking love, by the way. Thank you very much, guys. This is what I don't get. Like, I didn't make a ton of money off of that, but, you know, I don't have the sales figures, but I can tell you guys, they told me that because of that video, their sales went up, and they're staying up, at least more than it was before the video went up. And I just don't get that. Now, a lot of people may be telling me, well, you know, Japan has Nico Nico Doga, so yeah, they understand how online videos can be influential, and I would disagree with that. I have never seen a video on Nico Nico Doga that was monetized, and that's the big key here, is a monetized video versus an unmonetized video. The other thing, too, is I've never seen a Nico Nico Doga video break like 1 million views, or even like 100,000 views. And the big reason for that is that in order to even watch a video on Nico Nico Doga, you have to make an account in Japanese in order to do that, and that immediately cuts off just the entire world from going in and trying to make that happen. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I just don't think that a lot of these big companies, a lot of these big Japanese companies are really looking past their method of business. They're not getting outside their comfort zone. And unfortunately, from my experience, that's just how Japan has been. Japan's rarely gone outside of their comfort zones, especially when it comes to business, in order to make new things happen, in order to calculate risk and invest in new things. And, you know, it's just, if it works for them, that's okay, but it's not gonna work for too much longer. And I'm speaking in terms of beyond video games and beyond their business. There are so many people in that country that I love dearly, and there's so many different things about that country that I love so dearly. I just don't want to see it recede even further into a economical downturn that it already has since the 90s. But you know, I will say, I have found one exception, and that exception is Sony. In my eyes, Sony has done a really good job being worldly and understanding matters of the world. The fact that the PS4 has an automatic share function to link you to the internet is a good sign of that. The other thing I've noticed too, well, I've been told this through the grapevine. Again, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm just going off of assumptions, but if it's true, it's amazing. Is that Sony's branches in other parts of the world don't directly function underneath the Japanese home office. Like, they'll make independent decisions. And I think that's a great idea, because so many of these decisions are going to be language and culture based, whether or not something is going to succeed or not. And if every single time that decision has to be made and it has to go to the home office, and the home office doesn't have a really strong grasp, i.e. living in these various countries to get a good understanding of what a good business decision would be, I don't think that it would do as well as it's doing now. I mean, the PS4 is just absolutely killing in the market right now. I don't know, guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. I'd love to hear about what you think might be going on with these companies. A lot of people are condemning Capcom for going into the mobile market when either no one's going to know about them in the mobile market or that the mobile market's going to be too small. I strongly think Capcom went into the mobile market because the mobile market is so gigantic in Japan right now. And there's just a slew of problems with that. And, I don't want Nintendo and Capcom and all these other companies to die. I don't want that. I don't know. I just want them to make the games that we ask for and to pay attention to the outside world. And I hope that's what they're doing. So, anyway, let me know what you guys think. But until next time, this is Gaijin Goombah signing out.